Hello, this is Mike at GameFromScratch. Welcome to This Week in Game Development. This is week 42 for the week ending October the 16th. Actually, this is the 2 weeks ending October the 16th. There hasn't been a whole lot happening, as you're about to see. So it's just a quick recap of the news and events in the world of game development. And with that said, let's jump right in. Now, this week we saw, or 2 weeks ago, we saw the launch of Google's VR headset DayDream, the DayDream View. You can see it here. Their launch video is shown. One of the interesting choices they did was they went with a fabric outline. Now, DayDream's a little bit different than other headsets in that they basically took the functionality of the Galaxy S6, etc., their VR stuff, and they baked it right into Android. Now, out of the gate, this is going to be supported on their new Pixel devices, but ultimately, this headset should work with most future Android devices. So this is basically Google's way of driving Android sales by adding VR abilities to it. Now, this headset is nicely priced, too. We're talking $79, and that includes the headset and the controller you can see here. So that just launched. Another launch this week was SHIVA 2.0 Beta 7 was released. Now, SHIVA is a Lua-powered, I believe it's C++ closed source game engine. They've been in closed beta for a very long time. So sadly, the SHIVA 2.0 is only available for 1.x customers. So you really can't even get a look at this guy unless you're already a subscriber. But a couple new additions in the engine. There's new plugin support, new material editor, and various engine updates, including working with the newest versions of Xcode's and Visual Studio. Hopefully they get out of beta soon. They offer a version that's available to all of us so we can check this engine out ourselves. Another patch release this week was Unity patch 5.3.6 P7. Not a whole lot going on here. Mostly your usual menagerie of fixes and such in this release. No new functionality was added. Another game engine release, or sorry, framework, I guess you could call it. It's a physics framework called Bullet Physics. Now, Bullet's been around for a long time. It's a free implementation of physics in 3D. It's open source project, C++ based, available on GitHub under the zlib license, which is a very liberal license. It allows you to do quite a bit. But this release mostly brought us new Python bindings, support for inverse kinematics is a way of animating things. Basically, you drag a foot to pull the leg. I guess you could think of it that way. So basically, it flips the chain of your skeleton, probably from the way you normally think of it. And then the big part of this release was VR. VR being the new sexy thing. This one added support for the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. Now, I'm not really sure what specifically you would need in a physics engine to support VR. VR, like a physics engine, is generally 100% detached from your renderer anyways. But it might be something to do with the stereoscopic display or the split level or the hertz rate it runs at, or I'm not sure. But basically, they did add physics support. There's a video you can see of their work in progress. Another release this week, not a release, sorry, a contest that was launched was AIRCONSOLE launched a $10,000 developer conference. It's actually $1,350 is the total prize pool. But basically they are offering first prize is 10 grand, second prize is 2,500, and last prize or third prize is $1,000. Plus there's 3 Construct 2 HTML5 game engine licenses available as well. Now AIRCONSOLE is kind of a neat idea. I played with it and it actually works. You can use it as, it's sort of a game store, I suppose you can think of, in server. The entire pitch behind it is local co-op multiplayer where you use your phone as the controller. And it actually works pretty well. You launch the game in a browser on some kind of a device, and then each person dials in and enters a code with their mobile phone, and then that phone is now your controller. And you can do some pretty neat stuff. You can create your own button layouts, you can do motion controls, etc. So they're trying to get new developers in and published on their platform. So that's part of this. Your game has to use their API and has not received funding from them in the past. You can port existing games over to the AIRCONSOLE if you wish. So basically it's an HTML5 game API for controllers and game store for local games. So you basically you can monetize your game using their advertising system. They don't sell games, so it's all ad based if you wish to opt into that. And the revenue split is pretty reasonable. I think it's the standard 70-30. So that's how that whole setup works. Another game engine released this week was DEFOLD engine 1.2.90 was released. Now, the DEFOLD engine is a Lua-powered game engine. I've been covering it for some time now. This new release doesn't bring us a whole lot. As they were saying here, as they were focused on stability and robustness in this particular release. Now, if you do want to learn more, I do have a complete tutorial series available here. And as always, I will actually link all of these stories down below in a single link. You can see I've summarized these things up into a single link that I will link to you below. So if you're looking for more information, it will be available down below. This guy doesn't do a whole lot here. Bundling on Android for macOS works better now. Debug profiles now show the amount of memory being used by Lua. Autocomplete functions for Facebook, WebView, and Window. Library, drag and drop issue, and then various fixes, as you can see right here. So pretty much an incremental release going on there. And the last bit of news is actually kind of sad. And since I published this one, it's actually been confirmed. They just went through a big round of layoffs. It is done and dead. And that's the MaxPlay engine. MaxPlay engine was trying to be the Google Docs of game engines. They were actually pretty well financed. I believe they had something like $17 million. Now, the game engine space is an insane place to try to, especially with that kind of funding behind it. There's so many established players. There's, on the A or AAA front, you've got Unity and Unreal Engine really kind of kicking things big time. And then even if you don't want those, you've got the two CryEngines. You've got CryEngine, you've got Lumberyard, and then you've got Autodesk's entry in there of Stingray. You've got the multiplayer online focused Hero Engine, etc. So those are your commercial engines. And then in your non-commercial engines, you've got even more options. You've got your frameworks such as SFML, Cocos 2DX, you name it. Then you've got full-blown open source free game engines such as the Godot engine. So this is a very tricky space to be in, and as we've seen recently, some of these companies are going away. Marmalade, a long-running mobile SDK, died off last week. The Corona Lua-powered mobile game engine just had a bit of a refactoring. Who knows what's going on there, but there's definitely something up. And then, as I'm saying now, MaxPlay is unfortunately dead, which is a shame because they just recently announced that they were going into closed beta. It looks like things were going to come of this, and unfortunately they have closed shop. Now, one thing I've heard, they've laid off the majority of their workers, sadly enough. Hopefully, if you're from MaxPlay, you've landed on your feet. But they are talking about licensing their technology. So maybe we will see some of this engine in some form or factor. But basically, this one died off well before we even got a chance to see it, which is a shame. It actually looked like an interesting engine. And an engine built around internet and collaboration, etc. does make a certain amount of sense. But I can't imagine the financials of creating a game engine make sense at all in this day and age, and they seem to be a victim of that. So that was it. That was This Week in Game Development. Hope you found that useful. If you did, please do click like, and I do one of these every 1 to 2 weeks, depending on how much is going on in the world. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, or tutorials, etc., all kinds of things game development related, please do stick around. Click that subscribe button. I hope it'll keep you entertained. All right, so that was it. This is Mike from GameFromScratch. Hope you enjoyed that. See you all later. Goodbye.